Today we're going to be working on algebra with decimals, so we're going to be reviewing all the things that we've done with decimals, operations with decimals, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We're going to be reviewing our integer rules with positives and negatives, and combining those all with some algebra things that we've done so far this school year. So we're really bringing a lot of things together here to end our unit. So I've got a quick review here listed for solving one-step equations. What we talked about when we did this with integers was draw a dashed line to the equal sign to represent the balanced scale. And so I'm going to draw my balanced line here. Find the variable, highlight it. It's optional if it helps you. Sometimes I just kind of like circle it if I just have a pencil. And then decide what's being done to the variable. Is something being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divide? X is being added, so we have to use the inverse operation to undo it. And the inverse of add is subtract, so I'm going to end up subtracting on both sides. And it says do the same thing to both sides of the equation, it must stay balanced. So if I subtract 3 from this side, I also must subtract 3 from this side. It says write your work neatly in rows so you can see the steps. Be careful about doing the decimal calculations using the rules reviewed above. Do computation off to the side and not under the equation. When the variable is alone on one side of the equation and there's a number on the other side, then you have a solution. A letter equals a number. So let's get to that point right now. 3 minus 3 is 0. These cancel out. And I'm left with just x, just a variable on this side. And negative 11 minus 3, when I have minus sign, I'm going to copy, change, change. So I'm going to copy, change, change. And same signs add and keep. So 11 plus 3 is 14. Keep my negative sign, and x is equal to negative 14. Number 8, the final step is check your solution. Plug in your solution to the original equation and do the math to double check your solution is correct. You can do this either written out, 3 plus negative 14 equals, doesn't equal negative 11, or you can do it in your head. Either way is okay. Same signs add and keep, but different signs, a positive and a negative, we subtract. 14 minus 3 is 11. Keep the sign of the higher number, which is negative, and then you'll be exact. And so negative 11 matches here, negative 11, so my answer, x equals negative 14 checks. And that is just a reminder of how we solve one-step equations. When you open up, there's going to be more solving equations with adding and subtracting up here. But now we're going to throw in some decimals. And so I'm going to just jump into these first two examples here. We've got n minus 2 75/100 equals negative 8 3/10. When I see subtraction, I'm going to use the inverse. So I'm going to add 2 75/100 to both sides. When I add decimals, it's super important that I line up my decimals. And I know that negative 2 75/100 and 2 75/100 equals 0. They cancel each other out, and I've got n equals left on the left side. And over here I have negative 8 3/10 plus 2 75/100. So when same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. I've got a negative and a positive. Those are different signs. And so I'm going to subtract 8 3/10 minus 2 75/100. So I'm just going to do that out to the sides because it's a little less messy in here. I cannot do 0 minus 5, so I'm going to have to borrow. 10 minus 5 is 5. I cannot do 2 minus 7, so I'm going to have to borrow. 12 minus 7 is 5. There's my decimal point that I need to keep lined up all the way through down to here. And 6 minus 2 is 4. And then remember that same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. We have to keep the sign of the higher number, which is negative. So n is equal to negative 4 55/100. Now, I can do a little bit of estimating quick here. This is about negative 8 plus 3. That would be about negative 5. This looks like it's about negative 5. I can also plug back into my original equation. I can use estimation there, or I can do the actual math. I'm going to use estimation even when I plug back in. This is about negative 5 minus 3. I would use copy, change, change on this, and same signs add and keep, that is negative 8, and so my answer seems reasonable and checks. We can use those estimation skills that we learned earlier in this unit to plug back in but not do too much work for ourselves. And then on this last example we're going to do together in this video, we see addition, and the inverse of addition is subtraction, and so I'm going to subtract 32 67/100 from both sides. Oops, 32 and 67/100. 32 and 67 hundredths minus 32 and 67 hundredths is 0. Those cancel. And I get W equals, I've got negative 42 and 1/10 minus 32 and 67 hundredths. I'm going to use my 3 C's, copy, change, change. And now I've got same signs. So same signs, add and keep. I can probably do that over here and make it not too messy. So I'll do that. 0 plus 7 is 7. 1 plus 6 is 7. Line up my decimals. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. Keep the sign, add and keep, so it's a negative. And W is equal to negative 74 and 77 hundredths. So again, if I want to plug back in, we've got about negative 75 plus about 33. So that would give us about negative 42. My answer seems reasonable in checks. And I can do that all mentally in my head with my estimating skills. So again, you've got lots of options on how to check your answer and make sure that things make sense. Just make sure that you're picking one and sticking with it and trying to be consistent with how you check your answer and plug back in to make sure that your answer makes sense.